What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for May 1st, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. Happy May to everyone out there. Let's get right into the Phils. And that was more like it. A stress-free, don't have to worry about it, 7-2 win over the Nationals. Yes, I know it was the Nationals. However, lots of good things to take away from this game. Christopher Sanchez didn't have his best stuff, but was solid. Went 5 innings, struck out 6. But the bullpen was very, very efficient, very, very good. Didn't give up a run. That's how I expect the bullpen to pitch. JT went deep. Max Kepler went deep. Schwarber went deep again. He's now 36 straight games getting on base, which is good. Maybe, just maybe, it's hitting season down at Citizens Bank Park. The weather's getting warmer. Charlie used to always say it. Even Bryce got into it, hitting a double. He's been in a slump, and they were kind of talking about it somewhat, that he's been putting in work to try to his timing seemed off. So maybe this is a start of something good for him. But a good, solid win over a team that you should beat 7-2, quite frankly. Every starter got on base and contributed except for Edmundo Sosa. That's all right, though. That's okay. But let's keep this momentum rolling. That's 4 in a row now. 2 of them are against the Cubs. They look for the sweep tonight with Taijuan Walker on the mound, who might be auditioning for his job in the starting rotation or starting somewhere else. Lots of teams out there do need starting pitching help, so you never know. But overall, good win. Nice to have a stress-free one. Nice to be able to not necessarily not fall asleep because you're pissed off and stressed out about the Phillies. So we will take it. They look for the sweep tonight before opening up 3 games against Arizona this weekend. But it could be hitting season. And let's recap yesterday's question today. I asked you, after a month, are we overreacting to the Phillies right now? 71%. So a pretty good majority of you said, no, we're not overreacting. They are who we thought they were. Somebody said lots of talk about it being the same team, and just this is what they are. If you look over the past couple of years, this is what this team is. Very inconsistent, can be hot when they're hot, but very, very cold and just look terrible when they're not. But again, I'm hoping that this is the start of hitting season and we're going to be okay. Some people were talking about like the positives, the plate approach and things like that. But I don't know. And Rob from Delaware checked in and basically was like, how come the manager is not getting more heat for this? Everybody's talking about the bullpen. Everybody's talking about the hitting. But Rob has made some questionable decisions. And Rob is absolutely 100% right. Rob from Delaware. The manager seems to be getting off scot-free on this. Some of his bullpen decisions, I talked about the taking Strom out yesterday and putting in Kerkering. Just the inconsistencies with the lineup. Let some of these guys play and get hot. So I do think Rob Thompson has been overlooked here with the Phillies struggle. So we'll see. 4 in a row is nothing to sneeze at. Hopefully this is the start now of let's win today and take 2 out of 3 from Arizona and get rolling as we approach the month of May. Hard to believe it's May already. Insane. But one thing that is going to be hard for the Phillies is to keep Otto Kemp down in AAA, especially if, and of course Max Kepler hit a home run last night, but Otto Kemp would look good in a platoon situation with Max Kepler. Hit another bomb last night in AAA. If you're not paying attention, he's now got 8 home runs on the season up in AAA. And this dude he's a stud. He's been tearing up pitching at all levels in the Phillies minor league over the past couple of years. 25 years old. It's going to be hard to keep him down. Especially if he keeps hitting the way he is. Max Kepler didn't make it easy last night by hitting a homer, so we'll see. But remember the name Otto Kemp. I would not be surprised, especially depending on what happens here with Brandon Marsh, if we do see him coming up sooner rather than later. I know everybody's talking about Crawford and some of the other guys, but I think Otto Kemp is the guy that's going to be the first dude from AAA to be called up. So stay tuned for that. And let's go, Taijuan. Let's get another start. And it's hard to believe. Taijuan Walker has an ERA under 3. Just kind of pointing that out there. All right, let's do some housekeeping. Be sure to check me out on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, @PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont. We're slowly ticking up those subscriptions. Continue to spread the word. Lots of good things on the horizon. As soon as I'm done this 3-week stretch of my busy time at work, lots of, I don't want to say changes as much as some tweaks happening here on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. As always, there are highlights on my social media, including my Facebook as well as my LinkedIn if you want to see some of the newspaper clippings, photos, videos, and things like that. Obviously, some of the ones we're going to talk about today, it's difficult to find the video footage of that, but I got some good photos and good pictures and things like that. All right, it is May. And as I mentioned, May, by the end of this month, we're kind of starting. It's still a little chilly in the morning. We've been having some nice weather in the afternoons. But by the end of the month, it's Memorial Day, the unofficial start of summer. And what goes better than going to the beach, going to the pool, the mountains, sitting on your back porch, than music? We're going to start, and we'll finish up the show today with the first song on our Philly Sports Summers playlist. So stay tuned for that here at the end of the show. All right, time to do our Tankathon simulations. Not a good day for the Sixers. Sixers dropped down to the 7th pick, lost their pick today. It's like the 4th or 5th time they've lost it. But as far as percentages, we're keeping in line with what their actual percentages are. That takes place in less than 2 weeks, May 12th, the NBA lottery. We see the fate of the Sixers because if they lose that pick, then we're going to have a lot to talk about this offseason. It'd be nice to have the pick so at least we can kind of do an NBA draft preview. But if the Sixers lose that pick, yikes. The Flyers, though, had a good day. They moved up to the number 2 pick, which would be great. I'm very excited. And I don't know where they are in the coaching search. I don't know if they're trying to get it before. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter for the lottery, which the NHL draft lottery is May 5th, so Monday. So we only have a few more simulations here for the Flyers as we look ahead to Monday. But I guess they don't necessarily need the coach for the lottery, but I would expect to have a coach by the draft, which is, I believe, sometime after the Stanley Cup playoffs in June. But we'll continue to run our Tankathon simulations until the respective NBA and NHL lottery drafts or lottery. I don't even know what it's called. I think it's just called the lottery. I still, like I said before, I would love to make it a big event, just like the PA lottery. Have all the balls in a big vat with the team logos on them and just have them get sucked up. Like that would be. I would watch that. I would. Eagles news. They did decide to exercise the 5th-year option on Jordan Davis. I hadn't been talking about this because it's been a back-and-forth thing in the media about whether they should or they shouldn't. I think what they were trying to do is see how the draft played out. And honestly, I think this is a good move. I think the option comes in at like $12 million, keeps him here through the 2026 season, and allows them, because he picked it up near the end of last season and in the postseason. So I think what it does is allows, hopefully, for him to continue to grow without the added distraction of becoming an unrestricted free agent. I like it, and I think that like that 2026 is going to be a key offseason for the Philly or the Eagles anyway. But I'm okay with this. Let me know what you think, though. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's a bust. He's this. He's that. I think he fits well in the Jim Johnson. Jeez. Vic Fangio's defensive rotation. So I'm okay with this. Again, you might find that at the end of this season, you could have got, that might be a steal, $12 million for an interior lineman. We saw what Milton Williams got And I know Sweat was an edge rusher, but I think he might have gotten a bargain here. I'm okay with it, but let me know your thoughts on the Jordan Davis fifth-year option. Be sure to check out my boys at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Lots of great things happening on their Sports Fan Network. Go to clashingconferences.com for details of what they have to offer, how you can get involved, and then be sure to check out their podcasts on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Just met with Steven yesterday. Good dude. We meet monthly, but Steven and the crew over at the Clashing Conferences, great things happening with them. So be sure to go check them out and see how you can get involved. And Philly Goat, we talked a couple weeks ago about getting the rocks glasses for Father's Day, but don't forget Mom. Mother's Day is in a couple weeks. Philly Goat, of course, has you covered with their Mother's Day collection of T-shirts. Because of course they do. If there's a holiday or something you got to think about, Philly Goat has you covered. So go to Philly Goat, check out their Mother's Day selection. Maybe your mom is a big Jason Kelce fan. There's some Jason Kelce artwork from Jordan Spector as well. But why not do some Mother's Day shopping, especially if your mom is a huge Philly sports fan? Go to Philly Goat. Be sure to use that promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off your order at checkout. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, so today we got another little Phillies doubleheader action for you. And first, we're going to hop in the Wayback Machine and go back even further than we did yesterday. We're going to go all the way back to 1883. And on this day in 1883, the Phillies lost to the Providence Grays 4-3 at Recreation Park in Philly in their first ever game in the National League. Yes, the Phillies played their first ever game today back in 1883, losing 4-3 to the Providence Grays. They would go on to have not so good of a year that year, going 17-81. They were also known as the Quakers, but as was sort of the practice of the day, the newspapers would shorten the team's name to a shorter version of the city. So hence, Phillies became the standard nickname almost immediately for this team. So the Quakers, a.k.a. the Phillies, won their first game ever, 4-3 at Recreation Park. And I know if you're like me, you're always like, where are these parks located? Well, Recreation Park was located on 24th and Columbia. You might know Columbia now as Cecil B. Moore. It was kind of right there in the Strawberry Mansion kind of portion of the city. But Recreation Park, and then ironically enough, a couple years later, the A's had a stadium not only like 6 blocks away. I don't know if there is a historical marker for Recreation Park, but that was the Phillies' first home way back in 1883, losing their first game today 4-3 to the Providence Grays. And then fast forward to 1972, and this one I had to include because there's a lot of backstory with this one. But Phillies beat the Dodgers out in Dodger Stadium 2-1 on this day. Willie Montanez hit a 2-run homer in the top of the 8th to provide the difference for the Phillies. On the mound that day for the Phillies was Dick Selma. He threw a complete game 3-hitter, and it was the 5th straight complete game thrown by a Phillies pitcher. Now, if you know anything about that 1972 season, other than Steve Carlton, the pitching staff was horrible. The Phillies won like 50-some games, and Steve Carlton won 27 of them. So this is one of the few that the Phillies won without Steve Carlton on the mound. But back to Dick Selma. In the post-game interview area or locker room, wherever they were doing their stuff there that year in Dodger Stadium, he was complaining about his paycheck. I guess it was payday for the Phillies, and he had his paycheck. The newspaper was able to see it. His take-home pay for 2 weeks of work as a Major League Baseball pitcher, $34.22. And he's like, how am I supposed to live off of this? I guess he had a home in California, so he had to pay California state income tax, which was $120 out of his check, along with all of the other fees and deductions. But after the game, Dick Selma was quoted as saying, what am I supposed to do with this? This isn't even enough to buy a round tonight. And man, it was just a different time. $34.22 was his paycheck in 1972. Just got off the mound pitching a complete game, beat the Dodgers for $17.11 a week. Ridiculous. You'll never see something like that today. One, because of the contracts, but two, I don't necessarily think guys get physical checks anymore and have the pay stub. Like I get my pay stub emailed to me, but the fact that he's brandishing around the locker room, complaining about not being able to buy a round on $34.22. But on this day, though, Dick Selma did pitch the 5th straight complete game by a Phillies pitcher, beating the Dodgers 2-1. And I just, to me, the paycheck thing aside, the fact that that pitching staff was so bad in 1972, but they did manage 5 complete games. It was just a different time in Major League Baseball. All right. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I previewed earlier this week, music is sort of the great equalizer, I guess you could call it, because it's able to bring people together. Music plays a big role in my life. Depending on my mood, I'll throw something on. If I'm pissed off, I might throw some Tupac on to get some of that anger out, or some heavy metal. If I'm just kind of chilling, a lot of times I've been having a lot of Spotify playlists for Steve. I'm a big Bob Marley fan, so put some reggae on, and just, especially when the weather gets nice like this. But Philly sports, there's a lot of music entwined with our sports. So I thought, why not come up with a Philly sports summertime playlist? And to me, the key to a good playlist is having a good mix and a good variety of songs. So as we go through the month of May, I give you the songs for your playlist. If you want to create it on Spotify, that's what I'm doing. But you want to have a little bit of something for everyone. And it's just, hopefully this will get some discussions and conversations going. But all of these songs in some way, some form or another, whether it's blatant, whether it's just it reminds me of a certain time, all have something to do with Philly sports. So the first song on our playlist for today, May 1st, In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. Now, In the Air Tonight was released in 1981. It only peaked, I was surprised at this because I thought it was a good song. It peaked at number 19 on the Billboard Top 100 charts. But what's the Philly sports connection? And if you're an older Phillies fan like me, you went down to Citizens Bank Park during that glory run, that heyday. The Phillies had a lot of good walk-up songs, but one of the best that would always get the crowd going was Carlos Ruiz. And Carlos Ruiz used the drum solo for this, and can still picture Dan Baker going, now batting for the Phillies, catcher, number 51, Carlos Ruiz. And then you hear... you could hear the beginning walk up, and as soon as he said Ruiz, all of a sudden you hear boom, 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 boom. And then Chooch would end up doing something. But Chooch spent 11 years at the Phillies, is the world champion, played a big role in that 2008 run, went to the All-Star game in 2012. He was just a rock behind the plate, just an absolute stud for that pitching staff. Caught 4 no-hitters, and I don't think that is an accident by any stretch of the imagination. Sure, 2 of them were Roy Halladay, but I don't think it's an accident that Carlos Ruiz caught 4 no-hitters, which ties a Major League record. But I wish I could actually have it playing right now in the background, but due to copyright laws and the price of buying licenses, like if to buy a license for each of the songs I'm going to do throughout the month of May would cost me like $3,000. Sorry, you guys aren't buying enough Philly Goat shirts in order for me to do that. Kidding. Unless you're going to go buy a shirt to help support the cause. But we will add another song tomorrow. But In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins is today the first song on our Philly Sports Summertime playlist. Always will get the crowd going. Everybody does the drum solo. So this is a good one for when you're sitting on the back porch or down at the shore. It's sure to get everybody kind of in the mood or get going here on our summertime Philly sports playlist. However, that does lead to the question of the day. And we've been doing a lot of questions like this week, and I thought this would be a good one because I'm anxious to see where the conversation goes with this. Who's the best catcher in Philly sports, in Phillies history? Is it Chooch, You can make the argument for Bob Boone. There's a fraction of you out there that I'm sure will mention Darren Dalton's name. You could actually throw JT in there. And this is like guys that were really known as Phillies. I mean, obviously, Benito Santiago played for the Phillies for a year. Is he one of the best catchers in Phillies history? No. He only played here for a season. But who is the best catcher in Phillies history? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that, anything else Phillies sports related off your chest. And we're keeping it strictly Phillies because there's a couple Hall of Famers that played for the A's when they were in Philly. So best Phillies catcher of all time. Let me know who you got. Be sure to download or start your own Spotify or Apple playlist for our Philly Sports Summer playlist. Starting off with In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, Carlos Ruiz's walk-up song. One of the things, you want to get that crowd going at Citizens Bank Park, bring Chooch out and have that drum solo hit. On this day in 1883, Phillies played their first ever game, losing to the Providence Grays 4-3 at Recreation Park, down at 24th and now known as Cecil B. Moore Avenue. Tough season for the Phillies that year, finishing 17-81. And then in 1972, Phillies beat the Dodgers 2-1. Dick Selma with the fifth straight complete game pitched by a Phillies pitcher, and then took home his paycheck, $34.22. Hard to believe, Harry. Hard to believe. We'll have another Tankathon simulation tomorrow. Of course, it's Friday. We spend Fridays with AI, so stay tuned for that. We'll have an update on the Phils as well as they look to sweep the Nationals tonight down at Citizens Bank Park. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for May 1st, 2025. My name is Jim Montgomery. It's going to be another beautiful one, so go out and enjoy it. Have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.